Welcome to the Inspiring Victory Show, where we help you double your business, double your impact, and change the world. And as you know, backed by popular demand, we have Linda Hollander, who is with us today. And she's going to give us an update on all the things that you need to know about what's changing in the marketplace, who it is that might want to have you can be a sponsor for somebody you might not have ever thought of, and what are all the exciting new trends. Now, what's amazing about Linda is she was one of our top episodes on the show, so you may have seen her before, and a lot of people asked me if I could bring Linda back. Now, what you may not know about her is that she has been in this industry for almost, I think, 20 years now, though she doesn't look it, and then she has had sponsors including Microsoft, Citibank, FedEx, American Airlines, Wells Fargo, Staples, Marriott, Southwest Airlines, Dun & Bradstreet. I could go on and on and on and on. So we are very lucky to have somebody who knows so much about sponsorship. So many people don't realize that there's sponsorship money out there where you could really benefit an organization and they could really benefit you from a financial standpoint, from a status standpoint, or from a reach and impact standpoint. So very happy to have you here, the famous Linda Hollander. Thank you for being on the show again. We really are glad to have you back. Thank you.
Great to be here.
Wonderful. Well, you talk a lot about sponsorships. Your company is Sponsor Concierge. How do you get those sponsorships? And I think most people think they have to be this humongous company in order to be able to get sponsorships. And you prove every single day that is not true. And if you want to see some of the fundamentals about getting sponsorships, there is another episode that we will link below that you can see as well. But meanwhile, I know things are changing. How do things like the change in economy or the change in political climates, how do some of those things affect getting sponsorships, and how can we maybe use that to our advantage?
Well, let's address that, because a lot of people say that to me. They say, well, when I get this many followers, when I have a big fan base, I'm going to go out and get sponsors. Or, hey, my company is too small. Who would want to sponsor little old me? Well, when I got started, I was in the kitchen with my cat. I didn't have a fancy office. I had absolutely no experience with events because I was getting sponsorship for an event at the time. And I think this is important for your viewers and audience to know. I had no followers except for my cat and my parents and my brother-in-law. What are they going to say? No. So basically, you sell sponsors on the concept. And if I could go over how I got into it for a minute, and then we'll kind of dovetail into the new trends, because I know you really want to know that. So I started a business with my best friend, and that's why Sarah and I have connected, because we both believe in girl power. This was a lady that I've known since we were 13 years old. We met at recess, and we said, when we grow up, if we do anything together, it will be phenomenal. So we started a business together. That business got me out of the poverty trap, and it got me out of an abusive relationship with a man. And I wanted to show other people how to do what I had done, because we grew it to a multi-million-dollar enterprise, this business. And I said, I want to do an event. And then I look at the price and all the expenses of doing a live event. And I said, oh, how am I going to pay for it? And that's when I found out about sponsors, that sponsors will underwrite your event, underwrite your podcast. If you want to be a content creator, do a blog. If you want to be a public speaker, if you want to be an author, if you have a business, and if you have a nonprofit charity. So my first sponsors were IBM, Walmart, and Bank of America. And that was before I started my event. So once again, we can sell sponsors on the concept. And then everybody would come to my event. It was called the Women's Small Business Expo. And, I'll be so happy. I'm so proud of the work I did at the Women's Small Business Expo, because women met their business partners. Women got the missing pieces of the puzzle they needed to create their own multi-million-dollar businesses, send their kids to better school, make better choices, change the trajectory of their entire lives. And it was all because of corporate sponsors. So,
Wow, that's
yeah,
amazing.
yeah.
How did you sell them on a concept? You had no followers. You needed money for the event space and to be able to bring in speakers and do all of those things. How did you sell them on this idea concept that you had in such a way that they said, sure, here's some money? How did you do that?
Well, in sponsorship, demographics are your destiny. Write that down. Demographics are your destiny. The definition of sponsorship is connecting a company to people who can buy stuff. So I researched the heck out of women's business market. People like you, people like me, found out that women were starting businesses at twice the rate of men, and that women make or influence over 85% of the purchasing decisions. And I said to the prospective sponsors, I said, how would you like me to connect you with the biggest spending block on the planet, which is women? And that's when they said yes. So I sold them on the concept, and I sold them on the potential demographic, not my actual demographic, because nobody knew who the heck I was, but who I could connect them to in the future, and that they were getting in on the ground floor.
Wow. And they said yes. And it just amazes me that you took the time to figure all of that out and that they were excited about that opportunity. But it does make sense if you know what demographic they're going after, and even sometimes the psychographic, the psychology of the people that they're looking for, and you are attempting to bring in a group of people that are that demographic and psychographic. Why wouldn't they want to be there? Yeah, we did something similar when we were doing big live events. You know, it was like you're the cell carrier that desperately wanted to be the cell carrier of every business in the room, or the business journal, or whatever it was. They wanted in, and they wanted to pay for those things. So I fell into some of that as well, not to the extent that you have managed to create, which is thus we always want to learn more from you. Okay, so let's move on to how have things changed? Is everything exactly the same as it was 20 years ago?
Absolutely
Or
not.
I had a feeling that would be the answer.
No,
All right, so tell me what's changed.
Well, first of all, good news for everybody out there. Sponsorship spending is going up more than the traditional ad spend, because as we know, like my husband and I watch Dancing with the Stars because he does ballroom dancing. He takes lessons, and, he kind of got me into it. But if you buy a commercial on Dancing with the Stars, you're reaching everybody from 9 years old to 90 years old. You're spending $1 bazillion. You have to keep repeating. And it's not as effective as a sponsorship deal where you're really targeting your reach. So sponsorship is going up. One of the big trends in sponsorships is the influencer revolution. Sponsors are looking for influencers right now. And I guess they were always kind of looking for influencers, because that's how I got sponsors, because I told them I could be an influencer. But that's what they're looking for. So this is great news for people who are content creators, who do have podcasts, radio shows, are authors, are speakers. I've even helped documentary filmmakers get sponsors, and even people who now start nonprofit charities have become the influencers, because who's behind a lot of the movements and a lot of the big causes out there. So really, and an interesting aside, my sister is a counselor, a school counselor, and she asks kids what they want to do when they grow up. And you know what they say? Influencer. They all want to be influencers because it's so attainable, because they all have a smartphone with a camera on it. And, one of my guilty pleasures is reality television. And I watch the cooking channel with the kids, and they've already started their own businesses, with podcasts, and with their own, some have a cookie business, and they promote it on social media, and they get clients, and they do the podcast to promote it. And it's really amazing. So if somebody, let's say, wants to be an author, okay, but they just want to write the book and then hide out in their loft and not promote the book or anything, unfortunately, you're not as good of a candidate for sponsors, because sponsors want people to know how to market, want people who understand branding, want people who know how to promote. And that's what they're looking for right now. And it's not that hard to really learn all this stuff, but you got to have that mindset that you are a media company.
Right. It's that content creator media company mindset of looking at it as being, we are influencing these people, we are bringing these people, these are your ideal market, these are the avatar of exactly what you want. And you've done your homework. It sounds like you really did your homework on what their ideal target market person looked like and then matched to, these are the people you want. I'm going to have them in a room. And it's interesting once you start doing some of those things and you do become more of a influencer with a positive and negative of that term, but hopefully in a positive way, then sometimes people will come to you. I mean, our podcast has done really, really well with the Inspiring Victory show. And we were very, very fortunate to have Marites Bott of Bott and Associates, who's an amazing estate planning company that we refer to gobs of business to. I think part of the secret is also making sure your sponsors are people you really do genuinely believe in and want to promote. And now they've expanded into financial services as well. And so it's fun for me to promote her on the show, and it's fun for her to be our sponsor. And she gets in front of people who really need what it is that she does. So I think sometimes you get that mindset of we're helping a certain kind of person. And then sometimes a friend or an acquaintance or somebody you've never met ever, it doesn't necessarily have to be a huge company like Walmart. It might be a smaller company that knows that you influence people that would be a good fit for them. And so that's what I've noticed about it. And a lot of it is I read your book I read your book years ago, and I was like, oh, I could do this. Yeah, exactly. So I think it's a plug for the book. Buy the book. What's the name of your last book is called?
Corporate Sponsorship in 3 Easy Steps. Just go to Amazon, look up my name, Linda Hollander, and you'll find it.
Exactly. We'll link that below as well, so that you can see it in the show notes. Awesome. All right. So things have changed a lot in good ways, in some really, really good ways. Now, that the question that I was asking you about, do changes in the economy make a difference for going after sponsorships? Do you have to do them a little differently? Do changes in political climate or people's concerns about things, does that change the way that you do this? Or is the basic premise always the same? Does that change anything at all?
Yeah, you really do have to watch for societal trends. But I want to circle back to the influencer thing for a minute, because when I tell people that, they get a little intimidated and saying, well, I'm just getting started. I have a very small following and all that. Here's some really good news. You don't have to have a big following. There is the deprioritization of followers. That is another trend out there, because sponsors have found that if you've got somebody with 1 million followers, let's say, that person can't engage with 1 million followers. There's no way. But if you have somebody with a small community, they tend to engage with their fan base a whole lot more. So sponsors really like that. And I want to expand on something else that you said. There's top tier sponsors and second tier sponsors. So I've shared with everybody that my first sponsor was Bank of America. And Bank of America is considered top tier. But then there's the little community bank where you are. And they need you to get the word out about them because nobody knows about them. So, everybody knows Bank of America. The financial planning company that you mentioned, they're not UBS Financial. They're not Ameriprise. They're not one of the big, companies, but that's why they need you to get the word out about them. So don't just go for top tier. And I always tell my clients, make a wish list, and they start picking the top brands because those brands have paid a lot of money to be what we call top of mind. And I say, okay, go a little deeper into that category and find the up and coming brands like what you have done so brilliantly. And those companies really need you, and you could get to the decision maker a whole lot easier and do the deal a lot easier sometimes. Well, so let's go back into the societal trends. Now, this one's a little controversial, but everybody is asking me about it. And that is DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, because that is very much in transition now from where it was a few years ago. Fear not, companies still want the diversity markets. Companies still want those markets. And especially banking and financial, because those markets are gaining economic power. And why wouldn't they want them? They might not be stating it as an initiative publicly, the DEI stuff, but it is still there. And so if that's kind of what you offer, like, let's say, one of your attendees at an event, like it's a Latina or African-American conference, a lot of my clients are saying, well, can I still do that? Can I still approach sponsors? Absolutely. They still want to go there. So fear not with the DEI, because a lot of people are concerned about that.
And that's money. I mean, that's, if they want that Latina market, they still want that, whether, DEI is officially this or that or changing, doesn't matter to them. If that's a demographic that loves to buy their product, they're going to want more. They're going to want to reach more of those people, be top of mind to those people for that product. Is that correct?
It's just good business. It is just
It's just smart business, just good business, just smart business. Oh, I love that. I am so incredibly honored to have you as a part of the Inspiring Victory tribe at the Inspiring Victory Show. Please do us a favor. We really need your help. Please like, subscribe, share, write a comment. It makes a huge difference with how many people we can reach here at the Inspiring Victory Show, and it makes a big difference to me personally. I want to make sure that we're providing content to as many people as we possibly can so they can grow and succeed. So we'd love to have you continue your membership here at the Inspiring Victory Show. It's free. Helping us out costs nothing, but it makes a huge difference in how many people we can help. So double your business, double your impact, and change the world. And thank you so much for being a part of this extraordinary community. Thank you. Okay, so how do you get in touch with some of these kinds of organizations? How do you reach out to them?
Sponsors want you to introduce yourself by email. And when I first started, I cold called them. And I was able to get through, but now it's, after the pandemic, it's really more challenging because a lot of people are working remote and, they're using their cell phones and working from home. And sometimes, it's just more challenging. So send them some emails, and don't just send them one email. We want you to do what's called a campaign, and don't just do a one and done, because a lot of people say, well, I sent an email to a prospective sponsor and they didn't respond. Well, your first email is your introduction. You want to send at least 5 emails to that sponsor, and you change up the subject line, mix up the body copy. Don't just do robo emails, because sponsors hate that too. If you do kind of spray and pray and they could tell it's a mass email, personalize it to them. Take like 2 minutes. That's what's cool about the times that we live in, because you could get so much information about a company in 3 minutes or 2 minutes. You go to the website, you maybe hop on their social media, and you could say, hey, I see you're doing this. And, that's why I wanted to talk to you, because of what I do. I feel there's collaboration here. I feel there's alignment here. And they really appreciate it when you've taken a couple of minutes to do your homework and personalize it. Because I've talked to a lot of sponsors in the past 20 years off the record, and they say they don't respond to if they see it's a mass email and you just filled in their name in that column and the company in that other column. That's really the way to get sponsors. We suggest that you get a list of the decision makers, and there's lists out there of decision makers, because a lot of people say, oh, I'll just go on LinkedIn and I'll find my sponsors. Well, that's kind of an exercise in frustration, because there are so many different job titles. Unfortunately, there is not a consistency of job titles. I've worked with public affairs, community relations, brand management, corporate communications, strategic partnerships. If you're going to do it yourself, I guess start with marketing, and maybe they'll lead you to the right person, but it's very challenging. And then on LinkedIn, all you could do is do a direct message, where most sponsors prefer email. So you want a list with email and phone numbers and all that.
Where do you get a hold of those appropriate
Well,
lists?
I'm going to give you my contact information at the end of this, and you could contact me and I'll tell you where to get the list.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. I think a lot of us, until I read your book, a lot of us, me included, forget that we know people who might want to help out. And sometimes that might be a family member that, that's really excited about what you do and wants to be a part of things, or that, that company down the street that's always thought what you do is cool. And, again, it matches the demographic and the psychographic that they want to get in front of. So it does, like you said, it doesn't have to be IBM. It doesn't have to be Walmart. It doesn't have to be these top tier, huge companies with big budgets that might take you 2 years for them to notice you. It might be somebody you already know. And I think we all have a tendency to think, oh, the people I know aren't big enough, but that's not necessarily true. I'm assuming you were able to get some sponsors, and I know you help other companies get sponsors as well, but sponsors that were not these giant corporations. How do you go about attracting or connecting with people that are a little bit smaller that you might already know?
That's a great question. It's exactly the same process. So we're talking about the warm market and the cold market. So the warm market might be somebody you know already, or somebody who knows somebody that you know, and you approach them in exactly the same way. It's really the same. You approach them with an email, you set up a conversation. Now, your first conversation with your prospective sponsor should be a fact-finding expedition. It should be a discovery call, because you don't want to get right into your presentation. You don't want to get right into your proposal. You want to find out what that sponsor wants first. You don't want to be guessing at that stuff. And I'll give you an example. When I got FedEx as a sponsor, I said, well, what do you want? What are you looking for? And that's when I was doing the Women's Small Business Expo. And they said, well, we don't want a booth and we don't want signage. And I said, well, why not? And they said, everybody knows FedEx. If we have signage, it makes no difference. If we set up a booth, people come by and they pick up the tchotchke. Oh, a tchotchke for you non-Jewish people out there. That's the...
Or if you've lived in New York, you know what this is, right? Exactly.
That is the little premium item, that they have there, the pens.
Those promos, the pens,
the little promo.
Squishy balls.
Exactly. That's the tchotchke. So he says, that's what people do.
I've never heard them called tchotchkes, but it's like exactly what they are.
Okay, well, everybody's learned a word of the day here, tchotchke. Okay, so I don't know why when I speak, the Jewish girl comes out. So anyway.
I love that.
So I said, okay, so what do you want? And FedEx said, well, everybody thinks we're the white glove, expensive shipping company, and we're actually not. And when, women start businesses, they go with our competitor, which is UPS, because they think they're less expensive. And he says, we have a lot of services that are less expensive than UPS. People just don't know it. So they wanted to get that message out to their consumer base. So we gave them press releases, speaking opportunities. We gave them an award presentation. We posted on social media because they wanted to do kind of a rebrand. And you know what, Sarah? We even gave them the vendor booth and the signage, because it cost me nothing, because I was printing up a banner with all of our sponsor logos anyway. And then, the vendor booth was airspace, and I figured, okay, let's just throw that in. Now, what if I had assumed that they wanted an exhibitor booth and signage? I never would have gotten FedEx as a sponsor in the first place, but we got them not only as a sponsor, but they stayed with us for 5 years because we listened to them. We listened to what they want. And every sponsor wants something different. So you really got to listen to them. And sometimes, like at the end of their year contract, I didn't even have to resell them. They just said, send us an invoice, because they were really happy with what we did.
I bet. Well, they were trying to make sure that people saw them in a new light, and you helped them accomplish that goal. That is wonderful. What a powerful story. Interesting.
Yeah,
All
so
right.
don't assume what they want. Don't go right into a
assume.
presentation. And unfortunately, people do that because they get nervous and they feel comfortable going right into a presentation. But it makes them less nervous in a way if they know, oh, I'm just going to be asking questions and gleaning information. So that's really the way to go about really having conversations with your sponsors that are going to turn into the deal.
Absolutely. And I think it does make people less nervous because you're getting to know them and it takes the pressure off of you a little bit at least. And I think the person asking the questions is a very powerful position to be in. I remember one of my favorite clients always says the quality of your life will be determined by the quality of your questions. If you ask, what are you looking for? What is important to you? What have you been directed to do? What could we do for you that would get you promoted? All of a sudden, it's a very different conversation. And I love the questions that you're putting out. Very, very helpful. And I think that's the same in any sales process. Find out what people actually want. And if you're not it, you're not it. Point them at somebody that can help them and be useful to them. They will remember it. And maybe they'll, when they move to another company, they might be able to bring you in then, or they might send you a bunch of referrals. You never know. Be good, be kind. Okay. So what are the mistakes people make when they're going after sponsors? What are the things that they don't know that they're doing that are really not good? Give me 3.
Okay. I'll tell you some mistakes, but I want to give you in the trends. I want to talk about AI before we close out. So a lot of the mistakes people make are kind of what I just said, not asking enough questions, not gleaning what sponsors want. Another mistake is not asking for enough money, because if you don't ask for enough money, then sponsors think that you really don't have anything of value and it's not worth their time, because sponsorship is a team sport. So you have what's called the champion there. So the champion in the company, they basically love you and think you're wonderful and the best thing on the planet, but they have to sell you to their boss. They have to sell you to their team and their colleagues and all that. So, I mean, you have to have something that they think is valuable there. They have to see compelling benefits for them. And, pricing too low, it marks you as an amateur, and it's going to turn sponsors off. So I know it sounds a little counterintuitive, because a lot of my clients say, well, I'll just charge this much to get my foot in the door, and then I could double and triple it. It doesn't work that way. You can't double and triple your sponsor fees. You could go up incrementally, but you really want to start out at a pretty high value. And then in the last mistake, and I think that'll dovetail into the AI, is they don't have the right proposal. So people fail in sponsorships because they don't have the right proposal. They don't ask the right questions. And, the proposal is all they see about you. It's how they make their funding decisions. So it has to be professional. It has to be in a certain industry standard format, because sponsors see that if you're sloppy in promoting yourself, you're going to be sloppy in promoting your sponsors. So you really, really need a good proposal. And it is the great equalizer, because we could all look as big as, IBM or whatever, with a very professionally designed proposal.
Okay, well, that leads us to what is enough in terms of money, because for some people, they might think, wow, if I'm asking for $1,000, that's a lot. And for another person, they might say $150,000 is a lot. What do you mean by ask for enough?
Okay.
Is there a way to look at that?
Most of our clients get between $10,000 up to $100,000 from each sponsor. And a lot of times the different levels are $10,000, $25,000, $50,000, and $100,000. And I see proposals all day long that ask for $100, $250, and the sponsors are going to.
You don't look serious. That doesn't look serious. Well, and in our culture, I think we tend to think that things are more expensive are better, whether they are or they aren't.
Yeah. So you really want to start at that particular threshold.
And I like how you've got, okay, you can be a silver sponsor, a gold sponsor, a platinum sponsor, whatever. You've got different levels for them to
Yeah.
choose from. And if they see there's $100,000 level, they're going to think your organization, you're really serious. That what's going on there, even if they pick what people typically, almost always, people pick that middle number. Okay, well, that also brings us to what should be in that proposal that is important to include or not include.
Okay. All right. Here's what you want in your sponsor proposal. You want a description of what you do and a really clear description. Do not ramble, because that's one of sponsor's pet peeves is the people who ramble. Make it really clear what you do. The compelling sponsor benefits, the right benefits. And remember from the FedEx story, it's not just about signage and slapping logos on a website and things like that. We want, of course, your demographics. I'm just a nut about that, because when we do proposals for clients, sometimes we have 3 pages in that proposal about the demographics, because the more data points, the better. And as you said, we want not just the hard data like the age range and the income, but we want the psychographics. What motivates them? What makes them tick? What are their pain points? What are their buying habits? So that goes in the sponsor proposal. Your marketing plan goes in the sponsor proposal, because marketing is everything, and you can include sponsors in your marketing. If you have testimonials, oh my God, testimonials, fabulous for sponsor proposals. And then the last thing is storytelling. Storytelling, because I've gotten sponsors because I put in my sponsor proposal that I was in the poverty trap, that I was in an abusive relationship. I'm in a very happy marriage now for over 25 years, but that was part of my past. And you know what? It's gotten me sponsors because it's made what we call an emotional connection. Because remember, you're selling to a human. You're not selling to a faceless corporation. It's a human being that's going to make that decision. So you show the humanity of what you do, and you create emotional connection. So it's all about storytelling. And I've got to talk about AI. I've got to talk about it, because that's one of the new trends. You know, people say, oh, I could just go on and write this with AI. I could write my sponsor proposal or Canva. Okay. And my sponsors are calling me and they're saying, what is with these Canva proposals? What is with these AI generated proposals? They reject those. You know why? Because sponsors can put your proposal through an app and very easily determine if it was written by AI. And they want original content. If it's written by AI, it is considered plagiarism. You want original content there. Now, you can use AI maybe for your outline or something, but please make it original content. And then you can always tell a Canva proposal because they have a certain look to them. And the designs are really nice, but the messaging is not right in their proposal template. That's not going to be
same problem. Yeah. Same problem. Yeah. Well, and you're losing all of your ability to have anything unique. You're not telling that great story about that bonding emotional story, or you're not telling the story about the sponsor you had last year that, was able to pick up $382,000 worth of business right there in the room, or whatever the story is. You're not doing anything that's unique or special or emotionally, connects with anybody. And it also doesn't show that you really get them. I remember one of our clients is the guerrilla selling guys that wrote guerrilla selling, guerrilla marketing, all that kind of stuff. And what is it now? 26 million copies at this point sold, 63 different languages, but they're obsessive about don't paraphrase them. They're a phrase. If you use AI to do it, it's going to sound like everybody else in the world. But if you can use the phrases and the words that FedEx, for your example, actually used, if you can embed those right in there, right up top of, what they're looking for in their actual words, it's a lot more powerful. And it shows that you really were listening to them as a human and not just, I'm trying to get as much information out the door, as many proposals out the door as possible. I think it's better to do a great job on one than to do 50 that are going to end up in the trash. So that's a really great point. And like you said, AI is great to get you an outline or show you the format and formula that they're looking for, so you're appropriate and respectful of the format that they want. But it's not good for building a human connection because it's not written by humans. And it's not, again, it's not about you and it's not about them. So I like that. I like that a lot. And not skipping ahead. What you said was interesting. Well, are you really fact finding enough about what they really want? And you know what I always say, which is, people pay top dollar for what they want the most and can justify the easiest to the people around them. So you have to find out what they want the most and what they can justify easily and what would get them that promotion. So all those things that you learned the hard way, as did I, and are now helping others with, learns from the mistakes of others. You don't have time to make them all yourself, right? So I figured that out a long time ago. Yeah. So I love that you are, invest in an individual human at a company rather than thinking of them as this big faceless corporation or a small faceless corporation. They are people and they deserve to be treated with kindness and respect and understood and feel understood and feel like their goals are being understood. And that's a lot of what you're talking about, is take that extra 2 minutes or extra 10 minutes to do your research, or an hour or 2 or 5, because you're going to have a lot better luck. I find that with all sorts of deals. I think it's the same thing, that's just imperative nowadays. Okay, so that's all very, very helpful. All right. Well, if you had advice for somebody, what would be your advice for somebody on their way up that, is sitting in their living room with their cat and going, I really want a sponsor, but I don't know what to do. What would be the first thing that you would tell them to do? What would be your best advice for that particular up and coming talent who wants to be you someday?
First of all, hold your head high. Know that you can do it. You may be working in a little postage stamp size space in your kid's bedroom, but you have a dream and you want to change lives. Sarah, you, me, and everybody listening to us, we are in the life-changing business. Unfortunately, though, changing lives takes money. It takes capital. It takes resources. We're all taught to have these great ideas and these big dreams, but the big dreams need funding, and nobody really talks about, hey, here's how to fund that big dream that you have. And sponsors can help you with that. They can help you with the money. They can help you with the resources. They can help you. We didn't even talk about this, getting the word out, because you could get media sponsors that could help you get the word out about what you do and increase the size of your audience and your database and all those other things. The nicest, the most amazing people that I have met have been the people in sponsorship departments, because all they do is give out money to people, to help them with their dreams. And of course, you have to show them a return on investment and all the things that we've talked about. But really, that's really the most important thing. And the thing that's most challenging to me when I meet with a new client is convincing them that they can do this. And I always say, just think of the end game. Think of that goal, that big dream that you want to achieve. And this is the way to get there.
I love that. That was beautiful. It is always so nice to get to see you. And you are so crazy smart, and we all appreciate your wisdom today. And I think that's just good advice in life. If you have a goal, go for it. If you need funding, there are ways to do it you're probably not even thinking about. And if you need some support on that, or if this is something you'd like to know more about, obviously, Linda has a company all dedicated to helping you do this, because you may be thinking, that all sounds great, but I don't know where to start or what to do. How do we get in touch with you? And I also heard that you were kind enough to say you might give people who are watching or listening a freebie that would at least help them get their next step down for finding sponsors. Could you tell us a little bit about that? And thank you in advance for doing so.
Absolutely. My website is Success with Sponsors. So go to successwithsponsors.com. And at successwithsponsors.com, you're going to find the number one secret to getting your sponsors. And that you can contact me through that website too. So if you want to write me a note, if you want to, and I'm going to make an offer now, if you want to request a free sponsor strategy session, just put that in your email, because my email is right there on that website, successwithsponsors.com. I love talking with people. I actually answer my own phone. Nobody believes me, but I actually do answer my own phone. Sometimes there's like a silence when I answer my phone, and people say,
they're so shocked.
Hello?
Yeah. You answer your emails. You answer emails.
I answer my phone.
Yeah.
I love talking with people. I love empowering people to achieve their dreams, to fund their dreams with sponsors. So just go to successwithsponsors.com.
That's very, very generous. And I know you really do mean that. And all she asks in return is you keep talking up what she does, who she is, find her some other great speaking engagements, because she's a fabulous speaker. And, again, make it reciprocal, be supportive, say something nice on social media about this experience with Linda, or the podcast that you're getting a chance to watch today, because Linda volunteered her time today. All right. Well, lovely to have you on the show. We're so grateful. That is a very wonderful offer. We appreciate. And then for you who are watching or listening today, we want to thank you for being a part of the Inspiring Victory Show, for being a part of the Inspiring Victory Tribe. We bring you absolutely the best content humanly possible, as you can see from today. And we really, really, really are committed to helping you double your business, double your impact, and changing the world. And so make a nice comment down below, help us with the algorithm, share this with somebody who might get some real good value out of it, right? And be sure and take that next step, because you deserve it. So glad to have you here, Linda, and I look forward to seeing you again soon. Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's take a moment to thank our sponsor, Meritess Bott of Bott & Associates.
I'm so honored to get to be with our wonderful sponsor for the Inspiring Victory Show. And I want to make sure you know a little bit more about her and about what they do, because I think it'd be really helpful for all of us as business people and just in our personal lives. Meritess does a lot of speaking, as many of you probably know, but I love one of the speeches that she's famous for, which is A Generous Legacy, the power of future-proofing your business and your personal life. And that's really what you are all about. So I want to talk a little bit about that with you. And can you give us an example of somebody who's come to you and how you were able to help them, that might be able to help all of us as we navigate our financial planning as well as our estate planning for business and for personal?
Yeah, I'd love to. Well, thank you for having me, Sarah. I appreciate it. We do a lot of estate planning, obviously, as well as the financial planning for our clients. And a story that I think is a great way to showcase what we do is this wonderful couple that we met back in, I want to say 2015. They came in for a consultation. So they are certainly a wonderful couple, blended family. So second marriage for both of them. He has children and she does not. Basically, they were saying to me, Meritess, I really want my estate plan to be secure. I want it to be ironclad so it goes to the right people. Particularly the wife was concerned that this money goes to her charities, which she was very, very active in, and volunteers quite a bit. She puts her hard-earned money with them. And she also wants to make sure her husband is taken care of as well. So she wanted to do both objectives at the same time. We were like, of course we can help you with that. We want to make sure that we write everything down and, just like you said, make it ironclad so that there's no contest. There's nobody trying to get to the money inappropriately. Right. So we created a wonderful estate plan for them. So that was 2015. Now, sadly, she unexpectedly passed a few years later. And her surviving spouse came to us, and he really needed help. He was so, of course, distraught and super, super sad. But he was also very concerned about the financial pieces. He wasn't that familiar with financial instruments. There was 13, 14, 15 accounts that she had. And of course, he was like, I'm confused. What do I do with all of this? So we said, okay, we're going to take care of you. We got this. And we were able to really take a hold of all those instruments and all those accounts. And on our financial side of our business, we're able to consolidate them, invest it in very prudent investments, and make sure it's easy for him to manage. So we were able to do that within 3 to 6 months. His late wife's wishes of him being able to live on that money and then eventually at his death give it to her charities is exactly what's going to happen. So wonderful to be able to plan it properly, give her peace of mind. A few years later, we're honoring 100% of her wishes. This money is not going to go to anybody inappropriately. And her beneficiaries, her charities, are going to be so happy to be able to get this money upon his death, because he is still able to live on that income. So I love those stories, because to me, we work so hard. We sacrifice daily, right? We work so hard, and we want to be able to take our money and be able to give it to people that we love and charities that we believe in.
Well, thank you very much for sharing that with us. I always enjoy spending time with you. And yeah, you're one of the people I always find so much value in talking to. You're just walking integrity, and you're a good soul. And you help people. You help people. So thank you for being on the show again, and for sharing with us, and for always doing such a great job for everybody. And now that you're able to do even more and be more of a one-stop shop to help people with all these different issues, I think your company and you are even more valuable. Thank you so much. Always lovely to see you. Marites Bott and Associates. If it's something that you need, be sure and contact Marites right away. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah.